The alarm beeped softly in the small cargo ship. Taemin rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the screen in front of him. They had been flying through empty space for 6 hours now, carrying boxes of medical supplies to a distant colony. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Another 3 hours until we reached the delivery point, Hyunwoo said from the pilot seat next to him. I can't wait to get paid and go home. Taemin nodded. He was 22 years old and had been working as a cargo pilot for 2 years. The job did not pay well, and most aliens in the galaxy treated humans like servants. But Taemin loved flying among the stars. He had dreamed of this since he was a small boy in Seoul. Suddenly, a weak signal appeared on their screen. It was a distress call, coming from somewhere in the debris field to their left. The field was full of broken pieces from old ships and stations. Most pilots avoided it. Someone needs help, Taemin said, leaning forward to look closer at the signal. Hyunwoo shook his head quickly. No way, if we stop, we will be late. The company will fine us. We barely make enough money as it is. But someone might be dying out there, Taemin said. That's not our problem. We're just cargo pilots. Let the rescue ships handle it. Hyunwoo kept his hands steady on the controls, flying straight ahead. Taemin looked at the signal again. It was getting weaker. In a few minutes, it would disappear completely. He thought about his mother back on Earth. She had always told him to help others when he could. She said kindness was the most important thing a person could have. I'm going, Taemin said firmly. He reached over and changed their course toward the debris field. Are you crazy? Hyunwoo shouted. They'll take the fine from both our salaries. Then I'll pay your half too, Taemin said quietly. I can't just fly past someone who needs help. Hyunwoo cursed under his breath but did not stop him. They flew carefully through the floating debris, avoiding the larger pieces. After 20 minutes of searching, they found it. A small escape pod, badly damaged, drifting alone in the darkness. They pulled the pod into their cargo bay. When Taemin opened the hatch, he gasped. Inside was a small alien child. She had pale blue skin with glowing marks on her arms and face. Her species was called Valeth. But that was not what made Taemin gasp. It was her injuries. She had burns all over her body. Her left arm was broken, and she was unconscious. Is she alive? Hyunwoo asked, coming up behind him. Taemin checked her pulse. It was weak but there. Yes, barely. Help me get her to the medical bay. They carried her carefully to the small medical room. Their ship only had basic supplies meant for emergencies. Taemin had taken a first aid course, but he was no doctor. Still, he did everything he could. He cleaned her wounds. He wrapped her arm. He gave her medicine for the pain and infection. The child did not wake up. Taemin sat next to her bed and watched her breathe. She looked so small and fragile. He wondered what had happened to her. Where was her family? Hours passed. Taemin did not sleep. He checked on her every few minutes. He changed her bandages. He made sure the machines were working. Hyunwoo brought him food, but Taemin barely ate. Finally, after 36 hours, the girl opened her eyes. They were large and golden, filled with fear. When she saw Taemin, she screamed and tried to get away. But her broken arm made her cry out in pain. It's okay, Taemin said softly, holding up his hands. I won't hurt you. You're safe now. But the girl did not understand his words. She pressed herself against the wall, shaking. Tears ran down her face. The glowing marks on her skin flickered with her fear. Taemin did not move closer. He just sat on the floor and smiled gently. Then he started to hum. It was an old Korean lullaby his mother used to sing when he was scared as a child. The melody was soft and peaceful. Slowly, very slowly, the girl stopped shaking. She listened to the song. Her breathing became calmer. After a while, she lowered her good arm and looked at Taemin with less fear in her eyes. Over the next few days, Taemin took care of her. He brought her food and water. He sang the lullaby whenever she had nightmares. She never spoke, but she started to trust him a little. She would let him check her bandages without pulling away. Finally, they reached a station where the Valeth people had an embassy. Taemin hoped they would be happy to see the child. He hoped they would thank him for saving her, but when the Valeth officials came to take her, they were cold and angry. They did not thank Taemin. Instead, they asked him why he had touched her. They said humans should mind their own business. They treated the little girl like she was a problem to solve, not a child who had survived something terrible. The girl reached out toward Taemin as they took her away. She looked scared again. Taemin felt his heart break. Before they left, Taemin ran after them. He took out a small device from his pocket. It was his emergency beacon. If activated, it would send his location to anyone who had the matching receiver. He knelt down in front of the girl and pressed the beacon into her small hand. "Keep this," he said softly in Korean, even though she could not understand. "If you ever need help, use this. It will help you find me, I promise." The girl held the beacon tightly. For the first time, she made a sound. She tried to copy the lullaby he had sung. It was broken and sad, but Taemin smiled through his tears. Then the officials pulled her away and she was gone. Taemin and Hyunwoo flew back to their delivery route. They were 3 days late. The company fined them heavily. They lost most of their pay for that month. Hyunwoo was angry at first, but when he saw how sad Taemin looked, he stopped complaining. "She'll be fine," Hyunwoo said, trying to sound cheerful. "Her people will take care of her." But Taemin was not so sure. He had seen the way they looked at her. Like she was unwanted. Like she was trouble. He wished he could have done more. He wished he could have kept her safe. That night, as they flew through the stars, Taemin looked out at the darkness and hummed the lullaby one more time. Somewhere out there was a small alien girl who knew that song. He hoped she would remember that someone had cared about her. He hoped she would be okay. He never expected to see her again. The galaxy was too big, and humans like him were too small and unimportant. He would just go back to his normal life, delivering cargo and trying to make enough money to survive. But Taemin was wrong. This was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning. 15 years passed like water flowing down a river. Taemin was now 37 years old. His hair had some gray in it, and he had small lines around his eyes from smiling. He stood on the deck of his own small cargo ship, watching the stars through the window. So much had changed since that day he rescued the alien girl. He was married now. Her name was Yuna, and she was a doctor at a space station medical center. They had met 7 years ago when Taemin brought in an injured passenger. Yuna had kind eyes and steady hands. She understood why Taemin always stopped to help people in trouble, even when it cost him money. They had a daughter too. Gia was 10 years old, smart and curious about everything. She wanted to be a diplomat when she grew up. She wanted to help humans and aliens understand each other better. Taemin was very proud of her. Taemin now owned his own cargo ship. It was small and old, but it was his. He still did not make much money. Most aliens still treated humans like second-class citizens. But Taemin had built a reputation. Other pilots called him the human who helps. Whenever someone sent out a distress signal, Taemin would answer if he was nearby. Sometimes other pilots made fun of him for this. They said he was soft. They said he would never be rich if he kept wasting time on strangers. But Taemin did not care. He remembered the little alien girl with golden eyes. He wondered about her sometimes. He hoped she had found a good home. He hoped she was happy. Taemin did not know that across the galaxy that little girl had grown up. She had not forgotten him. In fact, she thought about him every single day. Her name was Lyra. She was now 23 years old. The Valith people had taken her after the rescue, but they did not take care of her the way Taemin had hoped. No family members came to claim her. The officials put her in a government facility for orphaned children. It was a cold, lonely place. The other Valith children avoided Lyra. They knew she was the survivor from the colony ship disaster. Their parents had told them the disaster was shameful. The children treated Lyra like she carried bad luck. The adults who ran the facility were not cruel, but they were not kind either. They fed her and gave her a bed, but no one hugged her when she cried. No one sang to her when she had nightmares. But Lyra had one precious thing that kept her strong. She had her memories. The Valith people had special brains that remembered everything perfectly. Lyra could close her eyes and remember every moment with Taemin. She remembered his gentle smile. She remembered how carefully he wrapped her broken arm. She remembered the lullaby he sang, and she had the beacon. The officials had tried to take it from her many times, but Lyra hid it well. It was small enough to keep in her pocket. She held it every night before she fell asleep. It reminded her that someone had cared about her once. Someone had shown her kindness when her own people would not. As Lyra grew older, she became curious. She wanted to know what had really happened to the colony ship. The officials told her it was an accident. They said it was no one's fault. But Lyra did not believe them. She remembered things from that day. She remembered her father shouting about a broken engine that no one had fixed. She remembered warnings that were ignored. When Lyra was 18, she left the facility and went to university. She studied politics and history. She learned about the different species in the galaxy. And she learned everything she could about humans. She learned about Earth, about their languages, their cultures. She learned Korean, the language Taiman spoke. It took her 3 years to become fluent, but she did it. Lyra also investigated the colony ship disaster. She searched through old records. She talked to people who had been there. Slowly, piece by piece, she uncovered the truth. The disaster was not an accident. The ship had major problems that officials knew about but ignored. They had let the ship fly because fixing it would cost too much money. Hundreds of Valeth had died because of greed and laziness, and then those same officials had covered it up. They had buried the evidence. They had silenced the witnesses. They had let everyone believe it was just bad luck. Lyra was furious, but she was also afraid. The officials who had done this were powerful. If she tried to expose them, they might hurt her. Or worse, they might make sure no one believed her. She needed help. She needed allies. And she needed to find the one person who had shown her that kindness existed in the universe. She needed to find Taiman. But finding one human in a galaxy of trillions of beings was nearly impossible. Lyra did not know his full name. She did not know where he lived. All she knew was that he was a cargo pilot, he was human, and he had saved her life 15 years ago. Still, Lyra tried. She accessed databases of human cargo pilots. There were thousands of them. She looked at photos trying to match faces to her perfect memory. But humans aged differently than Valeth. The man she remembered was young. Now he would be older. She was not sure she would recognize him. She also tried to activate the beacon he had given her, but the beacon needed his signal to work. Without knowing where he was, it could not connect. Still, she carried it everywhere. It was her most precious possession. Meanwhile, Taiman continued his life. He took his family on trips when he could. He taught Gia about the stars. He helped Yuna at the medical center when they were short-staffed. He answered distress calls and rescued stranded travelers. One evening, Yuna called him into their living quarters. She was watching something on her tablet. Her face looked concerned. "You should see this," she said. On the screen was a news report. A young Valeth woman was giving a speech at some kind of conference. She was talking about government corruption and the need for transparency. "Why are you showing me this?" Taiman asked. "Listen to what she says next," Yuna replied. The Valeth woman spoke clearly. "When I was 8 years old, I was the only survivor of a disaster my government caused and then covered up. I was left alone in space to die. But someone saved me. A human cargo pilot found my escape pod and took care of me. He had no reason to help me. His people get no respect in our galaxy. But he helped me anyway. He showed me that kindness exists, even when your own people abandon you." Taiman felt his heart start to beat faster. "Could it be?" "That sounds like your story," Yuna said softly. "From 15 years ago. The little girl you rescued." Taiman shook his head. "The galaxy is huge. It could be someone else, but inside he wondered. He thought about golden eyes and glowing marks on blue skin. He thought about a broken arm and terrible nightmares. He thought about a lullaby sung in Korean. That night he could not sleep. He kept thinking about the girl in the news report. Could she really be the same one? And if she was, why was she talking about him? What did she want? Across the galaxy, Lyra gave more speeches. She talked about corruption. She talked about justice. But she also talked about the human who saved her. She hoped that somehow, somewhere, he would hear about her. She hoped he would recognize the story and find her, because Lyra had learned something important over the years. She had learned that one person could not change the galaxy alone. She needed help. She needed someone brave and kind, someone who would do the right thing even when it was hard. She needed the human who had once saved a frightened alien child for no reason, except that it was the right thing to do. She needed Taiman. 10 more years went by. Lyra was now 33 years old, and her search had become famous across the galaxy. She had become a powerful voice for change, speaking at important meetings and writing articles that millions read. But she had not forgotten her main goal. She still wanted to find the human who saved her. Her speeches about the human rescuer had touched many hearts. People from different species started sharing stories about times when someone helped them for no reward. Some aliens even started to see humans differently. Maybe humans were not weak. Maybe they had something special that other species had lost. But the powerful officials who had covered up the colony ship disaster were getting worried. Lyra was becoming too popular. If she exposed what they had done, they would lose everything. They needed to stop her, but they had to be careful. If something obvious happened to her, people would ask questions. Lyra knew she was in danger. She had received threats. Strange people followed her sometimes. Her computer had been hacked twice. She needed protection, and she needed allies she could trust. That was when she met Captain Vorin. He was a military officer from a different alien species. He had come to one of her speeches planning to prove she was lying. His government did business with the corrupt Valeth officials, and they wanted him to discredit her. But when Vorin investigated, he found something unexpected. Lyra was telling the truth. Every document she showed was real. Every witness she mentioned existed. The colony ship disaster really had been caused by corruption and greed. And the cover-up was bigger than he had imagined. It involved officials from multiple species, including his own government. Captain Vorin made a choice. He decided to help Lyra instead of destroying her. He brought evidence from military records. He provided security when she traveled. He became her ally and eventually her friend. "You need to find this human," Vorin told her one day. "Your story is powerful, but it would be even stronger if people could meet him. If they could see the man who started all of this." "I have been trying for 25 years, Lyra said sadly. "The galaxy is too big. I do not even know his name." "Tell me everything you remember about that day," Vorin said. "Every detail. Even small things might help." So Lyra told him. She described the cargo ship. She remembered it was small and old, painted dark blue with white stripes. She remembered there were 2 humans aboard. The one who saved her was young, maybe 22 years old. He had kind eyes and a gentle voice. The other human was older and seemed nervous about helping her. She told Vorin about the medical supplies they were carrying. She remembered seeing boxes with a specific company logo. She described the lullaby the human sang. She even hummed it for him. Vorin wrote everything down. Then he started investigating. He searched old shipping records. He looked for cargo companies that operated in that area 25 years ago. He found the company logo Lyra described. The company no longer existed. It had gone out of business 15 years ago. But Vorin found their old employment records. He found a list of pilots who had worked for them. The list had over 300 names. Then he found something else. A fine issued to one specific cargo ship for being 3 days late on a delivery. The fine was dated exactly when Lyra was rescued. The location matched too. The fine record showed 2 pilot names. One was Taemin. The other was Hyunwoo. "I found them," Vorin said, showing Lyra the records. Lyra's hands shook as she read the names. After 25 years, she finally knew his name. Taemin. She said it out loud, trying out the sound. It felt right. "Now we need to find where they are now," Vorin said. "That might be harder. Humans move around a lot." They searched for weeks. They found records showing that Hyunwoo had stopped working as a cargo pilot 12 years ago. He now ran a small repair station near the outer colonies. They found his address. Finding Taemin was harder. There were many humans named Taemin, but Vorin noticed something. Several shipping reports mentioned a cargo pilot who often responded to distress signals. Other pilots called him the human who helps. The description matched what Lyra remembered about his personality. They traced this pilot's ship registrations and travel logs. It was him. It had to be. Taemin was now 47 years old. He was married with a daughter. He owned his own small cargo ship and still flew delivery routes through the same areas he had worked 25 years ago. "We should contact Hyunwoo first," Vorin suggested. "He might be able to help us arrange a meeting." Lyra agreed. Her heart was beating fast with excitement and fear. She was so close. After all these years, she would finally meet him again. She would finally be able to say thank you. They traveled to Hyunwoo's repair station. It was a small place on a quiet station. When they arrived, Hyunwoo came out to meet them. He was 52 now, with gray hair and a tired face. "What do you want?" he asked suspiciously. He did not like having a famous Valeth activist at his station. It could bring trouble. "I am looking for someone," Lyra said in Korean. She had practiced this moment in her mind 1,000 times. "I am looking for Taemin. He saved my life 25 years ago." Hyunwoo stared at her. His mouth opened but no words came out. Lyra began to hum the lullaby, the one Taemin had sung to her when she was frightened and hurt. The melody filled the quiet station. Hyunwoo sat down heavily on a nearby crate. You, he whispered. You are the little girl. The one from the escape pod? Yes, Lyra said, tears starting to run down her face. I have been looking for him for so long. Please, can you help me find him? Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I always felt bad about that day. I told Taemin not to stop. I said helping you was a waste of time. I was wrong. Seeing what you have become, hearing what you have done, I was so wrong. Will you help me? Lyra asked. Hyunwoo nodded. Taemin is scheduled to dock at Central Hub Station in 1 week. He goes there once a year to visit his wife and daughter. They live there most of the time. I can tell you exactly when and where his ship will arrive. Lyra felt joy flood through her. 1 week. In just 1 week, she would see him again. She would finally be able to tell him what his kindness had meant. She would finally be able to say the words she had been practicing for 25 years. But she did not know that the corrupt officials had found out about her discovery. They had been watching her. They knew she was close to finding the human. And they had decided that if they could not stop her quietly, they would stop her permanently. The trap was already being set at Central Hub Station. Central Hub Station was one of the biggest space stations in the galaxy. Thousands of people and aliens lived there. Ships came and went every hour. It was the perfect place for both a reunion and an ambush. Lyra arrived 3 days early. She was too excited to wait. Captain Vorin came with her, along with 4 of his best security officers. He had heard whispers that someone might try to hurt Lyra. He was taking no chances. Lyra could barely sleep. She kept touching the emergency beacon in her pocket. She kept practicing what she would say. Would Taemin remember her? Would he even recognize her? She had been a scared child then. Now she was a grown woman. On the morning Taemin was supposed to arrive, Lyra woke up feeling strange. Something felt wrong. She looked out the window of her room and saw suspicious people moving through the station crowds. They were trying to look normal, but she noticed how they watched her door. Vorin, she called into her communicator. I think they are here. Stay in your room, Vorin replied immediately. I am sending guards. But before the guards could arrive, the door exploded inward. Armed men rushed into the room. They wore masks and carried weapons. Lyra screamed and ran for the window, but they grabbed her. Suddenly, Vorin and his officers burst through another entrance. A fight broke out. Energy weapons fired. People shouted. Lyra managed to break free and ran into the corridor. The station alarm started blaring. Emergency lights flashed. People were running and screaming everywhere. Lyra did not know where to go. She just ran, trying to get away from the attackers. Behind her, she heard Vorin shouting. Then she heard a terrible sound. Someone crying out in pain. She looked back and saw Vorin fall. He had been shot protecting her. His officers gathered around him, returning fire at the attackers. Lyra wanted to go back to help, but one of Vorin's officers yelled at her to run. Get to the medical bay, he shouted. We will bring him there. Lyra ran toward the medical bay. Her side hurt. She looked down and saw blood. One of the shots had grazed her, but she kept running. She had to survive. She was so close to finding Taemin. She could not die now. Meanwhile, on the other side of the station, Taemin's ship was docking. He had brought his whole family for this visit. Yuna was excited to be home. Jia, now 20 years old and studying at the university, was talking nonstop about her classes. As they stepped off the ship, they heard the alarms. What is happening? Jia asked. A station officer ran past. There is a fight in Sector 7. Medical emergency. All doctors report to the medical bay. Yuna looked at Taemin. I have to go, she said. She was still a doctor. She could not ignore people who needed help. I will come with you, Taemin said. Jia, go to your apartment. Stay there until this is over. They rushed to the medical bay. It was chaos. Injured people were being brought in. Doctors and nurses were running everywhere. Yuna immediately started helping. Taemin helped carry people and hold medical equipment. Then they brought in Lyra. She was hurt and barely conscious. Yuna saw her and pointed. Bring her here. Quickly! They laid Lyra on a medical bed. Yuna examined her wound. It was not too serious, but Lyra had lost some blood. While Yuna worked, she talked to Lyra to keep her awake. What is your name? Yuna asked gently. Lyra, she whispered. My name is Lyra. Yuna paused. That name sounded familiar. Lyra? Are you the one who has been giving speeches? About the human who saved you? Lyra nodded weakly. Yes, I came here to find him. His name is Taemin. Do you know him? Yuna felt her heart skip. Taemin is my husband, she said softly. He is here. Right now. Lyra's golden eyes went wide. Tears started flowing down her face. He is here now? Yuna called out, Taemin! Come here. Taemin had been helping another patient. He came over worried something was wrong. What is it? Then he saw Lyra. He looked at her face, at her blue skin with glowing marks, at her golden eyes. Something stirred in his memory. Lyra looked up at him. The man was older now, with gray in his hair and lines on his face. But she knew him instantly. Her perfect memory showed her the young pilot who had saved her, and she saw that same person in this older man. She spoke in Korean, the language she had learned for this moment. Do you remember me? I am the alien girl you saved long ago. Taemin felt like his heart stopped. The words were in Korean. This Valeth woman spoke his language. And her eyes. He knew those eyes. He had seen them filled with fear and pain 25 years ago. The escape pod, he whispered. The little girl with the broken arm. Lyra began to hum. It was the lullaby, the one he had sung to her when she cried at night. The melody was shaky because she was hurt and emotional, but it was unmistakably the same song. Taemin sat down beside the bed. His hands were shaking. It is really you, he said. I wondered about you so many times. I hoped you were okay. You saved my life, Lyra said, crying. You showed me that kindness exists. You gave me hope when I had nothing. I have been looking for you for 25 years. I never forgot you. Not for a single day. Taemin felt tears running down his own face. All those years ago, he had just done what felt right. He had never expected thanks.
He had never imagined the little girl would remember him.
But here she was, grown and strong, and she had been searching for him all this time. Gia had not gone to her apartment like her father told her. She had followed them to the medical bay to make sure they were safe. Now she stood in the doorway watching this incredible moment. Her father, the simple cargo pilot, had changed someone's entire life, and he had never even mentioned it. Station security arrived then looking for Lyra. They said she was wanted by the Valeth government. They said she was a criminal. They had orders to arrest her. Taemin stood up. He placed himself between Lyra and the security officers. No, he said firmly. This woman is not a criminal. She is a survivor, and I will not let you take her. Yuna stood beside him. Then Gia came and stood with them too. Other doctors and nurses who had heard Lyra's story formed a protective circle around her bed. The security officers did not know what to do. They could not arrest everyone. Captain Varan was brought in then, injured but alive. From his bed, he called his own security forces. He contacted the honest officials he knew. Within hours, the corrupt officials who had ordered the attack were exposed. Taemin sat with Lyra while Yuna finished treating her wounds. They talked for hours. She told him everything. About the cover-up. About her lonely childhood. About how his kindness had given her the strength to keep going. About how she had built her whole life around finding him and exposing the truth. And Taemin realized something. This was bigger than just the two of them. This was about justice. About truth. About showing the galaxy that one person could make a difference. I will help you, he told Lyra. Whatever you need to expose the truth, I will help you. We will do this together. Lyra smiled through her tears. After 25 years of searching, she had finally found him. And he was exactly the person she remembered. Kind, brave, and willing to do what was right no matter the cost. The next 6 months changed everything. Lyra, Taemin, and their allies worked day and night to gather evidence. They collected documents. They found witnesses. They built a case so strong that no one could deny the truth. Taemin provided detailed testimony about finding Lyra. He still had the old ship logs from that day, stored on a data chip he had kept for years. The logs proved exactly when and where he found her. They proved that Valeth officials knew about the colony ship problems but did nothing. Captain Voran recovered from his injuries and brought forward dozens of military officers willing to testify. These officers had seen the cover-up happen. They had been ordered to destroy evidence and silence witnesses. They were tired of protecting corrupt officials. Gia used her skills in communications to help organize everything. She contacted journalists from dozens of different species, She made sure the story spread across the entire galaxy. Soon everyone knew about the brave Valith woman and the kind human pilot who had saved her. Yunwu even came to help. He testified that he had tried to stop Taemin from rescuing Lyra. He admitted he had been wrong. He said he had learned that doing the right thing was always worth it, even when it seemed expensive or dangerous. The day finally came when they presented their case to the Galactic Council. This was the ruling body for all the major species in the galaxy. Billions of people watched the broadcast. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Lyra stood before the council. She was nervous but determined. She held the emergency beacon Taemin had given her 25 years ago. It had become a symbol of hope and kindness. She told her story from the beginning. She spoke about the colony ship disaster. She told them how she had been left to die. She explained how a human cargo pilot had found her and saved her when her own people abandoned her. Then she presented the evidence. Documents showing that officials knew the ship was dangerous. Reports that were destroyed or hidden. Witness testimony from people who had been threatened into silence. The proof was overwhelming. Ambassador Keltor, the main corrupt official, tried to deny everything. He said Lyra was lying. He said she was trying to damage the Valith reputation. He claimed humans were manipulating her. Then Taemin stepped forward. He presented his ship logs. He showed the exact location where he found Lyra. He played the original emergency recordings from her escape pod. The recordings included her father's voice, warning about the engine problems that officials had ignored. The council chambers went completely silent. Everyone could hear the fear in the voices of those dying people. Everyone could hear how they had begged for help that never came. Ambassador Keltor had no defense. The evidence was too strong. He and 17 other officials from various species were arrested right there in the council chambers. They would face trial for their crimes. But something else happened that day. Something unexpected and beautiful. Representatives from dozens of different species stood up and spoke. They talked about how Lyra and Taemin's story had touched them. They said it was time to see humans differently. One ambassador said, "We have always valued strength and technology, but maybe we have been measuring the wrong things. Maybe the most important strength is the courage to care about others. Maybe that is what humans have been trying to teach us all along." The Galactic Council voted to give humanity full membership and voting rights. Earth would no longer be treated as a minor partner. Humans would have a real voice in galactic decisions. The Council also created new laws to prevent corruption and cover-ups. They established a humanitarian oversight committee to make sure disasters would be investigated honestly. They appointed Lyra as the first director of this committee. Lyra accepted the position, but she made one request. She wanted Taemin to serve as her advisor. The council agreed immediately. Taemin was not sure at first. He was just a cargo pilot. He was not a politician or a diplomat. But Yuna encouraged him. "You have always helped people," she said. "This is just a bigger way to do it." So Taemin accepted. He retired from cargo flying and began his new work. It was strange at first, but he discovered he was good at it. He understood what normal people needed. He could explain complicated things in simple ways. And most importantly, he genuinely cared about helping others. Jia graduated from university and immediately applied to join the diplomatic corps. With Lyra as her mentor, she quickly became an excellent negotiator. She helped resolve conflicts between different species. She carried on her father's legacy of kindness and understanding. Captain Voran became the head of a new interspecies protection force. This military unit was designed to prevent the kind of attacks that had happened to Lyra. He made sure his soldiers understood that their job was to protect people, not just follow orders. Even Hyunwoo found a new purpose. He turned his repair station into a training center. He taught young pilots about the importance of helping others. He told them about the day Taemin insisted on rescuing a little alien girl. He explained how that one choice had changed galactic history. 5 years passed. Taemin was now 54 years old. He had gray hair and moved a bit slower than before, but his eyes still held the same kindness they always had. Lyra invited him to Earth for a special ceremony. She was 40 years old now, confident and respected across the galaxy, but she still thought of Taemin as the person who had saved her life in more ways than one. It was Lyra's first time visiting Earth. She stood in Seoul, the city where Taemin had grown up. The humans there had built a memorial. It was not just for Tae-min, but for all acts of kindness between species. It celebrated every time someone chose compassion over indifference. Thousands of people attended the ceremony. Humans and aliens stood together. Lyra gave a speech about how one person's choice can ripple across decades and change entire civilizations. 25 years ago, a young human pilot found a frightened alien child. Lyra said, "He had no reason to help me. His people were treated poorly by mine. He would lose money and time. But he helped anyway because it was the right thing to do. That choice saved my life. But it did more than that. It showed me what kindness looks like. It taught me that we are all the same when we are suffering, and we are all capable of helping each other." Taemin stood beside her holding his wife's hand. He still found it hard to believe that his simple act had led to all this. He was not a hero. He was just someone who could not walk away from someone in need. After the ceremony, Taemin and Lyra sat together in a quiet garden. The emergency beacon sat between them, now displayed in a case. It had become a symbol recognized across the galaxy. "I still carry the memory of that lullaby," Lyra said softly. "When things are difficult, I hum it to remind myself that kindness exists." Taemin smiled. "My mother taught me that song. She said music connects hearts even when words cannot." She was right, Lyra said. It connected us across species, across language, across all the things that are supposed to divide us. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset. Two lives that had touched for just a few days, but those days had changed everything. Later, Taemin went home to his grandchildren. Yuna and Jia had both started families. The children gathered around their grandfather, asking him to tell them stories. "Tell us about the alien girl," the youngest one demanded. Taemin smiled and began to hum the old Korean lullaby. From another room, visiting for dinner, Lyra heard the melody and hummed along. Her voice joined his across the distance, just as their lives had joined across the years. The galaxy had changed. Humans were respected now, valued for their compassion and moral courage. New laws protected the innocent. Corruption was harder to hide. And it all started because one young pilot decided that a frightened child's life was worth being late for a delivery. Taemin had learned something important through all of this. He had learned that you do not need to be powerful or rich or special to change the world. You just need to care. You just need to choose kindness when it would be easier to look away. And Lyra had learned that the universe might be vast and cold, but it was also full of people who would help you if you gave them the chance. People who would remember you. People who would search for you across decades just to say thank you. That night, as stars filled the Earth sky, Taemin taught his grandchildren the lullaby. They practiced it together, their young voices mixing with his older one. Someday they might sing it to someone who needed comfort. Someday, they might be the ones who chose kindness when no one expected it. And somewhere in the galaxy, another person would make the same choice. They would help a stranger for no reward. They would show compassion when it was difficult. And maybe, just maybe, that single act would ripple outward like waves on water, touching lives and changing futures in ways they could never imagine. Because that is what humans do. That is their gift to the galaxy. Not weapons or technology, but the simple, powerful choice to care about each other. And that, in the end, was more than enough.